we wanted to hit up tonight that I really wanted to hit up tonight. First, the Muslim ban, because it happened last week. It was the first thing that happened last week. Thoughts, opinions?
It's crazy. I can't believe it actually happened. I mean, I'm not surprised Donald Trump would put something like that into place, but I'm just amazed that it lasted as long as it did, that people actually were willing to accept it. And like, I feel like it was a weak move. I think it made us look weak.
I think I don't unlike a lot of people, I don't think it was necessarily a Muslim ban. I think like that's what they ended up calling it. I think it was honestly, to me, it felt like a PR stunt. Like, let's do something that's actually going to have minimal impact as far as banning country. Because I mean, how many people travel to the US from Yemen? Like, think about it. So I feel like they picked a bunch of countries where they were like, okay, it's not going to be that bad, but it looks like it tells the Trump supporters that we're still doing something, and then it backfired.
I'm more inclined to agree with that.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. I just wondered, I don't know, because I've always felt like everything he does is manipulated by like Steve Bannon and whoever else is running him or controlling him, whatever. And I feel like he really thought that he was doing something tremendous. So to me, it was like the effort that he was trying to put into it. Like, he was really trying to ban these people. It's part of the rhetoric he's been spewing for like the last, however, like couple of years that he's been like for this role. So like, it just, I don't know, it just kind of creeps me out that like he would really like try to make an attempt, even if it's minimal, like to do something like that.
Here's my question. How long, because you know how his explanation for the entire thing was, where it, you know, we didn't come up with this list. President Obama came up with this list. How long will he keep using President Obama as an excuse for the decisions that his administration makes?
Well, I think that's not necessarily an excuse. That's a context.
But the context, from what I know, from what I've heard, actually, the context wasn't in terms of banning people. Like, President Obama didn't write this as a list of people to ban. It was people of like, it was like visa extension applications or something like that.
Yeah, it was restrictions on the visa waiver program, which allows citizens of certain countries to be able to travel to the United States without first obtaining a visa. So he was able to use this as the legal precedent for the ban.
But at what point but you can argue President Obama, because everything that one administration does connects to actions that your current administration takes.
Exactly.
So how long?
Right. So
that's
his first 4 years, honestly, if you really think about it. After that, probably not, but he could probably just hold on to Obama for his entire 4 years. Theoretically.
It's a scapegoat.
Yeah.
The thing is, like, he can use certain things from the previous administration and say, well, these things in the previous administration is why we made this decision, or how this came about in the first place, while still taking responsibility for the decision itself.
But I think, does anyone find it concerning that he's kind of setting up kind of the parameters for other people to take the fall? Because he was like, oh, if there's another terrorist attack, it's, you know, blame the federal judge, blame the Justice Department. Does anyone know?
Well, that's his whole, like, he's always been that. Like, he's always been, I'm perfect, I'm awesome. Anything that falls or looks shady around me is because of this guy or that guy. If you question me, you're a piece of garbage. Like, it's always been his way, and like, it's kind of bizarre. He trashes Obama for many things, but then he's already done things that are similar, just not quite as kosher, for loss of better words. And it's like he's just a weird guy. He's always going to be like that. All of his language is always going to be opposing and downtrodden on someone and trying to put blame on someone else. And eventually, I think it's going to get old. And people are going to start to be like, okay, getting a little annoying. Right. I think a lot of his supporters are starting to fall off a little bit from him and starting to be, he still has a lot, but I think there are some that are starting to dissent a little bit and go, okay, he's being a little annoying. He's being a little too over the top.
because they agree with like some of the core concepts of like, they want legal immigration and they want to feel safe economically and personally, but then they see things implemented poorly. And I know, because I work with a lot of people who are much more conservative than I am even, and they were very frustrated with how the ban was put in place because they felt individuals who had helped our country suffered, and those aren't really the people that they want to be affected by things like this.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's very true.
This is going to be slightly controversial, but I want to know everyone's honest opinions. So has anyone seen like the Bill Maher and Ben Affleck drama on the Bill Maher show where they're arguing about Islam?
Was that recent?
No, this is like a couple months, maybe a year ago. Okay,
yeah, I think I did see it. I don't remember exactly what the rhetoric behind it was, but I do remember seeing it.
Okay.
Early.
Okay, so Bill Maher had like a pretty much a person who wrote a book about this. He was a neurosurgeon, but for some reason he was writing a book about kind of Muslim ideology, and he put forth this, that we should stop making. He wasn't coming from a place of like xenophobia and I hate Islam, He was coming from a place of like, can we acknowledge that Islam, that if the majority of Christians think that stoning people for adultery or whatever is bad, can we just be on the same page that the majority of like Islams are more conservative than Christians and more fundamentalist? So there needs to be an ideological kind of like revolution within Islam itself before it can be like widely accepted by the West.
Was this Carson that said that?
It was Bill Maher. But he had like an Islamic scholar.
Oh, okay.
No,
I know you mentioned neurosurgeon.
Yeah, I forgot the name of it. I forgot the name of the doctor, but it wasn't Carson. It was someone a lot more obscure than that and less known.
I'm a Ben Carson fan, like through and through. I read his book when I was 11. Totally great perspective. But, he really surprised me. He really surprised me with the election, though. I'm not by the obvious things. Like people asked him about homosexuality. I expected his answer to be, Christian. But Carson.
Yeah.
I know Ben Carson has to be a smart person because
he's very intelligent.
He's he was the dean of Johns Hopkins Medical School, which is the premier, it's the top medical school like in the country. And you don't just become dean of Harvard Law for being a dumbass.
No, but has he really said anything idiotic though? I mean, I know he said things in line with his beliefs, but when I listen to comedy shows and the way they twist his words, I'm just like, huh? It's like they're looking for humor in there, and I'm just like, I'll go with it because it's not my job to defend him. I'm not his PR, whatever. I respect the man. I respect what he does for the community in terms of education, but
you know what the problem with him is? It's not that he's saying stupid things. It's that he comes off so easy to pick on. Like, I understand that it's because he is a neurosurgeon and he is a doctor and he's far more brilliant than everyone that was on that podium every time. Of course, he's Ben Carson, but he just has this like calm tone. And he speaks like
everyone.
this.
Yeah, I think someone said he sounds sleepy.
Yeah, it's like, and then he like when he responds to things, he responds with like such Jeb Bush style low energy, and then like enough. He wasn't built for that realm. He wasn't built for that.
No, he's not built for politics. I don't even know what he's doing there in the first place, to be honest. But it's not for him.
That was weird. He ran for president, but then when they asked him whether he wanted to be Department of when he wanted to head HUD, he's like, I'm not sure. I don't have any experience in government. Then what were you doing running for president? I don't understand. So you would have accepted the presidential job, but you can't be head of HUD?
Wait, did he say he
That's when you make fun of him.
Did he say he wasn't sure?
Yeah, originally when they asked him, he was like, the government's not really my thing, and I don't really know anything about HUD or the Department of Housing. But it's like
I don't understand. This is kind of like another digression, but I don't get how that's what he was picked for instead of Surgeon General. Like I didn't get
Yeah,
that.
yes, I know, right? That's
Like,
or or like a health department.
yeah, he's literally the most brilliant surgeon of our era. Like he's literally created surgeries that people do now. And I'm like, how does the guy invent techniques and ran for president? And you don't say, okay, maybe it'll be brilliant if I put him as Surgeon General. No, you put this guy like in the housing world. Like, why would you put him there? Made no sense.
What did they put him at now? The urban development, whatever.
Development, yeah.
Well, that's actually more suited to him because since he grew up poor, whatnot, and I think that's definitely more his area because he's.
So anyone who grew up poor is eligible to head.
Okay.
There are so many people way more qualified.
That's not what I said. I'm saying it's something he can relate to, and it's something like pretty much people in poverty remain poor for particular reasons, whether or not people argue with it or not.
Okay,
and
how does that make him qualified?
What I'm saying is he understands, he can relate, and he can. Besides, he has the means. He can invest. He can set up programs to help the kids get out of that. And the children are the only things that matter, I guess, when it comes to that. Anyway, that's just me. I'm not just gonna, throw poor adults under the bus. Yeah, I'm just saying that. In terms of everything we just talked about, presidency, nah. Urban housing, what? No, but the development community, yeah, I mean, he can thrive.
5 and 7.
Get that. Like, I get you saying like he's better off for that than he would be for president, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Yeah, but still, there's better people than him for that job.
Yeah, I'm concerned about the presence of like minorities, and I'm not one of those people. This is gonna sound controversial, but I don't believe in hiring minorities just because they're minorities. I don't know. Maybe it's not controversial with you guys, but that's kind of controversial.
I don't believe that either. I think it's stupid.
That's kind of stupid.
It's bad for I think it's bad for minorities.
Yeah, I think that no, because like I think. You know how like in MIT, there's not that many women, so it's a lot easier for women to get into MIT than it is for men. So the quality, So like I remember when I was applying, I didn't apply to MIT, but in my school year, a bunch of girls got in that like, this was when the SATs was like 1600. They had like a 1300.
What?
And they got into MIT. And then my guy friends who had like a 1590, were so bitter about that. They're like, this is really unfair. I mean, I agree and I don't agree because it's sort of like a type of affirmative action, but yeah. But anyway, let's go back to Ben Carson. When he did the Black History Month speech, he was sitting in between Omarosa and like Ben Carson. And
that was funny. I was like, I'm like, Ben, what are you doing there? That was my first thought. I was just like, yo, why?
Those are his African Americans of the day, huh?
Yeah.
Like Omarosa. Okay.
Yeah, I gotta give her props because she is famous for nothing, but man, did she know how to hitch onto the right horse because background all the time. Yeah, that's his real lady. No, Melania is the trophy.
Well, actually, I'm glad he brought up. You know what? I'm just gonna deviate. Why is everyone feeling sorry for her? Now, this is really getting on my nerves. I've been seeing a lot of posts. It's like poor her, poor. I'm just like, what are you talking about? If all Trump supporters are the devil, then she's like Queen Devil. That's like the biggest.
I don't feel. I don't feel like Melania. I don't.
Dude, I'm gonna tell you why. I don't think she likes him. I don't think she supports him. I think she's stuck.
A grown-ass woman. She can get out.
And he can get rid of her.
No, it's not victim. Okay, yeah. All right, next topic.
Look what he's done to his other European women. Like he throws them in the trash can. Like he suddenly they're back in Russia. Like he ruins people, and he can easily. You see how he is.
Wait, did you see that meme where he turned around and said something and then her face changed? I really want to know what happened. I'm just curious. I just want to know. It's hilarious.
Yo, she has Stockholm syndrome. That's what it is. She's just a person.
Stockholm syndrome means that you're in love with the person and she doesn't even want to live in the same house as him.
So much that she's starting to like feel pity and love for him again. So that's why she's sticking to it. Because she's just been so tortured for so long that she can't like pull herself out of it.
Okay, yeah, thank you for that explanation.
Betsy DeVos. Okay, what is there to say? Oh my God.
No, okay, wait. So before we go talking to Betsy DeVos, I want to kind of give a little like background on both sides of the thing. So the cons of Betsy DeVos is that she wants to defund public education. Most of us who went to public schools, you know, the good thing about public schools is that there are standards. You know, everyone has to meet certain grade level standards. That varies by state. So if you live in a state that sets the bar very low, like Alabama, yeah, that's your school, your state guidelines screwing you over. And then if you go, well, yeah, so if you live in a state like New York, where the standards are actually pretty high, if you attend a public school in the state of New York, you're going to be receiving a good quality education. Well, supposedly. So she believes in charter schools, and charter schools gives you the option of going to people who don't live in the US. It gives you options of going to schools that are not directly in the school district you belong to. So, and the school district system is great if you live in a wealthy neighborhood and you have high property taxes and you can go to a good public school. But if you live in a crappy neighborhood, charter schools are a good option. And she believes in charter schools. So what are everyone's thoughts on pros, cons?
I like charter schools to an extent, but I think defunding public schools is stupid. Like, it's utterly stupid to me. Like,
but charter schools
you can't just
public
go from
schools. Like, I think
the system that's in place in terms of funding them, they don't need to like remove it. They just need to how much control is within the state and within the federal government, how much assistance they apply to what standards are there. Like, it shouldn't just be like state by state shouldn't be like how they decide the standards completely. There should be some kind of national standards that are implemented more and are pressed onto each state more, so that at least the gap won't be as tremendous as it is, to where when you go to certain states and you talk to people who don't have college educations, you can actually tell the difference, which is pretty bad. So
I have to ask,
I don't know.
With her policies and what Shirley just mentioned, where do the children fit in all this? Because I know I have my opinions concerning public school and charter schools and whatnot. I really want to know how this affects, I guess, learning environment, what age the kids
I actually have a good answer to this, because my friend, she worked in a charter school she's worked in several charter schools for several years, some within New York State and some within like Kentucky. And how it works is, for example, the one she worked at the gifted school in the lower lab at charter school, and they basically have creative programs for kids to kind of explore their artistic sides. So they had like acting classes, and you wouldn't have that in a regular public school. They had like drama, theater classes, like music classes, but like beyond the type that you get in a regular public school. The downside was, she said that there was a lot of programs, there was a lot of these like extra programs, like sculpture class, acting and drama. But she said that the kids were not, reading, like third graders were not reading on grade level. They were not, able to do math on grade level. But, the school wants to encourage kids to be creative and blah, blah, blah. That wouldn't happen in a public school.
I agree with that. My school is public now. It used to be private until, the mayor came in, did the whole UPK or whatever, for kindergarten, blah, blah, blah. They have a high emphasis on learning while play, which is why, you ended up with what you just said there just now. And when I sit down during staff developments, we discuss policy and whatnot, all the stuff baffles me, makes me wonder, what the hell am I even doing here? Might as well let the children run this school,
Is it a Montessori school?
Yes.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
So I'm just like, whenever the parents talk about charter school, usually the charter schools have a better curriculum, better structure. It's a little bit rigorous, and I think a lot of the kids get a wake-up call as soon as they get there.
The benefits of charter schools that it's unconventional, so you can introduce elements that would not traditionally be introduced in public schools. For example, in charter schools, like the Montessori technique, which he just said, basically is where kids are allowed to touch or interact with, their learning is guided by themselves. So if they see like, a tower of blocks and they want to explore that, you know, they can, and that those blocks will help them learn. And that's why, you know, religion is also like, a lot of charter schools are religious, because you can introduce elements of like, you know, religious learning in schools that, you know, are not public.
Mm-hmm.
But I think everyone's like blowing it out of proportion by saying she wants to turn every school into like a Bible school.
Well, yeah, everything right now is being blown out of proportion thanks to Trump, and I'm holding him responsible for it. Yes, I know people should be more intelligent or whatever, but he kind of set the stage for extravaganza, and people are going along with it.
Mm-hmm.
It just doesn't seem like anything was very well thought out or well planned out.
But like I said, with most things here, when she's being, I guess, nominated or whatever, and everything's a freak out, I'm just like, well, let's see what happens. Like, in terms of, right now, I'm in a let's see what happens mode, because
okay, but we are seeing what's happening, and it's not good.
That's what I'm saying. I'm just letting it play out, because in terms of, you know, what I can do, it's really not much I can do except do what I'm doing right now, and I guess hope for the best. That's about it. But and look for the truth. That's pretty much, yeah, I gotta throw that in there. But other than that, can't be freaking out, man.
Yeah, because you know what?
What'd you say, Josh?
I said get involved in your local communities.
Well, that's exactly what people should already been doing. But that's what I'm saying. That's pretty much all you can do. Like, life doesn't stop, you know. So do what you do.
It's a fact.
Seriously, like someone running and getting on the school board of their local school is going to have more of an effect on things for them than whatever Betsy Devos most likely will do.
And people don't understand that, man. It's like, come on.
My thing with Betsy DeVos, my thing is, I actually like researched her, and because I thought she came from like a school administrative background, like I knew she didn't have real experience. I knew she didn't have real experience, but I was like, okay, she must have done something like even like sort of related. But
they asked her that in the committee. She straight up said no. They asked her several questions.
Well, like, no. I thought maybe she ran a company, because they're like, oh, she's a billionaire. I was like, okay, maybe she's a successful businesswoman. So I actually researched her, and
depends what your business is.
No. Well, that's the thing. That's the thing. She is the daughter of a billionaire, and then she married the heir of a billionaire company. Like, she married the son of a billionaire, and he was like the heir to that fortune. But it like in terms of her life, and I read the entire Wikipedia page, like there was nothing. Like, she never had a real job. She didn't go to like Harvard or Princeton. She went to like Christian college.
I have her wiki page open as well, yo. It's funny stuff.
She did a lot of fundraising, but besides that, she never had a real job. Like, she doesn't.
That's always.
She went to Calvin College, yo.
Oh, Calvin College.
Whenever I see fundraising on a resume of a person who's 50 rich,
fundraising.
That's always annoying to me. I ran fundraisers. Yeah. That's always like an excuse to say you did something when you really do nothing. Like, anytime you see a Trump appointee, you should always assume that they're inexperienced and then go find out if they're experienced, because the high chances they had no experience or whatever they're appointed in.
She served on a bunch of boards for things. Those are real jobs.
No, they're not.
Real-ish.
I have friends who serve on the boards of things.
Hey, just because your friend
wait, but you know what it means.
Jobs doesn't mean that she didn't. Maybe she was the best damn board member they had.
Well, I actually I had a friend who worked for the Robin Hood Foundation, which is really big in New York. And when someone serves on the board of something, it just means that the entire job of the board, okay, for those of you people who don't know, is that the job of the board is to gather for a nonprofit. It's to gather money. It's to fundraise. That's the entire job. That's why people that's why people compete to sit on boards, because it's complicated, but trust me, like, people sit on boards just to fundraise. It's not like, oh, you make decisions regarding the nonprofit. You don't actually make decisions.
Hey, guess what I do? I write accounting software for nonprofit organizations. I am well aware of what boards and nonprofits do.
Perfectly experienced. Oh, somebody shot Shirley.
Oh no.
Sorry, I have to go out and get water.
Nah, it's cool.
She
Betsy
was
Devos.
mansplaining nonprofits to me. No, I'm joking.
Oh man, but
Okay.
But you're right. I've known some useless ass board members. None of my clients. They're all golden for any who may eventually see this.
If
Be
you sit on
careful.
the
They might
board
decide what
member
kind of
of,
education kids get.
if you sit on the board member of a corporation, like you do stuff, like, you know, usually if you're the member of a board on like for example, Microsoft, it's because you were already, like they only promote people on the board who are already like partners or of that level. And then you get promoted.
Yeah.
So.
Hey, hold on.
I do know board members that did do stuff.
Betsy raised 150 grand for 2004 Bush re-election campaign. That's the whole 150 grand. Yeah.
But she could have just given him that money herself.
I know,
knew
right?
this
She's Michigan's wealthiest.
board member at the Nantucket Historical Association.
She probably found out her couch.
She could definitely do something about Flint's water. And I drive past Flint, like if I go to Michigan and I drive, I see that Flint exit and I'm like, nah, son.
Whoa, they said didn't they say the water levels were fine now?
Okay.
That water still looks muddy. You're out there drinking Hennessy.
I'm gonna Google this quick. Yeah, EPA tells Flint its water is fine. I wonder if they made that decision after Trump was elected and standards were shifted, or no.
Who knows?
Right?
I hope so, because I want something really good to happen with him, and I just want him to make me happy and be like, all right, there's hope, because I want him to be a good president. I don't have any hope in him, but I just like I'm praying for him to prove me wrong.
I have had. I'm on the line there because at the core, I agree with some of the stuff that he was coming out with during the election, but his implementation.
What did you agree with that he was coming out with during the election?
Against illegal immigration, always a fan. That we do have to worry about national security. I don't believe this is the proper way to go about it. I think we've got more of an issue with, say, like homegrown terrorism, or individuals from our country who have gone over there and are now coming back.
Sorry, this is while we're talking about terrorism. There's one thing I want to address. Do you guys consider white people who
Nope.
shoot up schools?
Yes.
Do you consider that terrorists?
Yes. Depending.
Okay, because
yes.
Okay.
You said schools, so I'm gonna go yes. It's domestic terrorism. That's
yes,
terrorism.
But domestic terrorism is not the same as actual terrorism. It sounds weird, right?
Actual terrorism.
But if you take any political science, the first thing you learn in political science is like terrorism is furthering, doing, committing acts of terror to further a political cause. And they always cite it in the context of like international whatever. So if you go up and shoot up, if you shoot up a school, how is that? What political cause?
Exactly.
Depends. So if it's a homegrown cause, and this, I may sound offensive here, and I don't really care because I'm just fleshing this idea out as I go.
Speak the truth, brother. Go ahead.
But if the threat essentially originates from abroad, it's terrorism. If it originates from here, and that's not saying that so even if it was, say there was a homegrown terrorist group that's, say, because we're talking Islamic right now is the main thing. If it's homegrown, it's still not really domestic terrorism because essentially it came from an outside influence.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I see your point.
It's not, because you're furthering an international cause. So if you're blowing up something, if you were born and raised in the U.S. and you kill a bunch of people in the name of ISIS, it's still furthering a
But it still has something to do with foreign, right? Like essentially, what he's saying, it still has to do with outside, and anything else, I guess. Well, so I guess that's actual terrorism, and everything else is just mass insert tragedy here.
And then there's still domestic terrorism. Like, would you consider like the kid's name is Adam Lanza, right? The one who shot up the church.
Yeah.
Was it Dylan Roof? I thought it was Dylan.
Who's Adam Lanza?
Oh, wow, that's his brother. Are you talking about that's the shooting with the school, right? Lanza, that's
Yeah, I don't know. I'm mixing up shooters, but Dylan Roof, that kid.
What does that tell you?
Crazy.
Right, Adam Lanza was Sandy Hook. Adam Lanza.
Yeah.
Domestic
yeah. Dylan Roof would be domestic terrorism, right? Because the reason why I say that is because political in a sense, because he was trying to wipe out a racial group, and he had this racial.
Yeah.
Wait, he was trying to wipe out like all black people in that church.
He had issues with black people. He was racist. He was a neo-Nazi in a sense.
Right. Yeah, so that one totally 100% my opinion. Domestic terrorism.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it very much, especially racial tension, is a homegrown issue. Let's be honest here.
Well, yeah.
We still have some things to work out.
Yeah.
And his goal was to further perpetuate the negative portions of that. So that's domestic terrorism, in my opinion.
Yeah, that was domestic terrorism.
Well, while we have a lovely label for all these things now, do you guys see it continuing, getting worse, improving?
I mean, overall, things have been they're tragic when they happen, and we see them all on the news because everyone's connected to everything nowadays. But overall, incidences of violence and whatnot, unless I'm terribly mistaken, which have happened before, are on the downtrend overall.
Well, crime in general is a lot more than people, the way people behave today, you swear was in the past. In fact, when people say crime's down 40-50% since the 80s, the way kids can't go out and play now, people act like people trying to kidnap the kids. Nobody wants your goddamn kids. They swear that it's terrible. I did a lot of research into school shootings, and I had to make sure that I had everything on point. There were school shootings in the past, like I'm talking 1900s, but they were more acute. Mm-hmm. So let's say I was a dean and I didn't like the English teacher. I came to school with my gun and I shot the English teacher, and that was that. I'm out. Now people just go and they shoot up the school, and because the media sensationalized that tragedy in Columbine, it's now a thing. So now people want to shoot up movie theaters, shoot up schools, because they know it's going to have an impact. So that's why I asked you guys if it was going to get worse, because the way, and you know how the media likes to spin things now, so now it's exciting. So now I feel like it's giving cause for people to encourage to do it. So that's why I worry that even though crime is down, I think mental health is the #1 issue in America. Regardless of whatever like, Trump has mental health issues. That's just, it is what it is. This is why we are here, and he's poster child #1. He's not the most mentally ill person in America, but he's the commander-in-chief. He's in the spotlight, and his mental health is low.
There's something about mental health that you mentioned that I've always been thinking about. Yeah, like I've always wondered about this. Like, I feel like I'm noticing this. I don't know if anyone else has noticed this, but like the only, I guess, racial community or whatever, that the fact that there are mental health issues and accepts that they can be mentally disturbed in one way or another are like the white community.
Yeah.
Like I don't like black community. The black community never seems to act like they can have
Jesus,
issues
though.
mentally.
We got Jesus. So who needs mental health when you got Jesus? Leave it in his hand. That, I think the religion plays a huge part in that.
It's true though.
But yeah, you're right. But even if people don't, wow, I never really looked. I mean, I understand the black thing, but when you put it that way, yeah, I guess white people. I don't know how it is. Surely in the Asian communities, mental health like a topic. Is that like?
Yeah, no, it's not. It's not. It's not.
Is that
it's kind of taboo.
Okay.
Look, I I was talking to
in Asian communities,
friend.
like even divorce. I can't speak for the ratchet Asian community. I'm so sorry.
Yo.
I can't speak for the ratchetness.
I didn't
Like,
even know Asia had a ratchet community.
Those queens Asians. But like, no, like I grew up in an not Asian community. I grew up like with a bunch of white people, but like within kind of the county that we were in, there were a lot of Asian immigrants, but it was like very, it wasn't like my dad opened up a laundry shop type of thing. It was like they're researchers, you know what I mean? At like Johnson & Johnson type thing. They're all like, they all came from abroad and then they're all like in medicine or something. So within that group, even divorce is kind of like, people talk. I don't know. People talk. Like if you get divorced,
we need to go back to those days. You may not have been happy, but you know it was better for the kids. No, I'm serious. Like once you have kids, I'm sorry. Like make better choices next time. Oh, there's no next time. Well, you know, make sure your kids don't.
But you know what though? I disagree though, because I feel like try to work through it. But there's a point where you reach where it's better for the kids that you just let it go if it's really that bad.
Yeah.
It's better for the kids.
Some marriages.
Listen. The reason why it doesn't work out is because people are unwilling to work out. Let's just call it like we see it, right? Now there are reasons why, but let me put it this way: people aren't sufficiently intelligent enough to make proper choices when picking mates, and then they want to take backseats later, which is why.
Fact.
So let's like I said, I agree with what you're saying, but I'm over all the excuses, and I think when you really get down to it, which is why I focus on mental health, is because I like to find the solution at the start. That's not a lot of people want to. Ooh, my engine light's on. Just get a piece of duct tape and cover it up there. I don't see it anymore. And this is where we're at right now.
Yeah.
We don't go into the engine and say, "Ooh, wow, look at this. One of my six
enough.
bugs."
I saw a video clip the other day of a lady who divorced her husband, who she was married to for 22 years, because he voted for Trump.
I read that article.
It's crazy because I'm like, all right, I'd be pissed if I'm on the opposite side, you're on one side. We argue about it, we disagree, and we fuss over it. I have like good friends that are like that.
Okay, wait. I have a caveat because this happened to me. Well, not with my significant other, but this happened to me with like a couple of good friends. And it came out, I assumed that they were not Trump supporters. I'm not going to mention any names, okay, because I feel like they could watch this at one point. But I have to say, like, even though I try to get past it, I was like, it's not worth risking like losing a friendship over the stuff that they said.
Yeah.
I couldn't like get over it. There was the parts of it I just couldn't get over, like things like like some of the xenophobic things that I heard. And some of the, like, there's a lot of things about the Republican Party. It's very, very judgmental, like, and critical. Like, well, for example, with abortion, like, well, if you didn't make mistakes, you wouldn't have to have an abortion in the first place, which, like, that kind of like judgment and it.
The high horse mentality.
Sit well with me.
Wait. But where's the lie, though?
But who are you?
There is no lie.
Who are you? Wait, but who are you to? I mean, are you completely sinless in your own and faultless?
It's not about sinless. It's. I don't think it's more about sinless. See, I'm pro-choice. Clearly, I mean, logically, I don't think it's intelligent to tell someone else what they can do with their body. That makes zero sense. I get that. Exactly. However, I'm not going to pretend that once that sperm hit that egg that something was going to happen. And to end that, it means something. Let's just not pretend it doesn't. That's just where I stand on that. Outside of that, I don't know.
Okay, well, you don't have a voice because you're a man, okay? You are not allowed to have an opinion.
I have to find out the reasons for abortion, because a lot of people like the whole, but what about rape? That's like the least common reason for an abortion. The number one reason, they put it on the site, and I'm going to read between the lines here, right, is when birth control fails. That's bullshit. The number one reason is irresponsibility, because birth control, while it's not 100%, right, It's far less likely to produce a child than irresponsible behavior. So we're just going to put irresponsible behavior on the top. Then we're going to put birth control. Then we're going to put moms who, I guess, will get harmed by the pregnancy. That's definitely understandable.
Like deformities or... Yeah.
And then there's a child who's going to have birth defects and have really poor life quality. You know, that's also sad. So, and then at the end you have incest and, you know, whatever. So I was just like, okay, now we have like, what, 2 to 3 million abortions a year. That's what they calculated at. In terms of population size, that's actually really insignificant. It's whatever. There's like 325 million people, give or take. It's kind of insignificant. But
it's less than 1%. Oh,
yeah, you know, so that's why I don't get hung up on large numbers, you know. So I'm not gonna go all, oh man, these abortions are rampant left and right. That's not how it goes. But my issue with abortion has nothing to do with abortion itself, but the people that are on either sides, and I don't think people could come together on that.
But I still think there's a difference between, okay, what you're saying is, well, I don't agree with abortions, but it's still the woman's choice. I feel that a lot of people I meet on the right say things that are just make me really question their character. And I'm like, do I really want to be friends with these people? And I've actually gone through, like, I mean, there's a couple of people that every time I talk to, I really actually question, like, you know, like, for example, like, you know those people, you know who I'm talking about, you know, those Republicans or those conservatives that's like, oh, I can't wait till they stop the food stamps for all the deadbeats, you know, like, people like that.
Really, let me give you a little bit of perspective here. Now, when it comes to stuff like that, those people are actually less likely to have an abortion than someone who doesn't feel the way they do. They may not, I guess, they feel strongly about what they believe. And I guess on some level, I kind of respect it. I still think it's stupid to, I guess, really impose yourself. Like, for example, okay, so they're protesting a clinic, fine, whatever. Free speech, whatever. But to, like, literally, I guess, hinder someone or be like a massive irritant where you actually deter someone.
Or like blow it up.
Yeah.
Well, it's all about moral relativism.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, and so how could you argue with someone's morality? That's why I don't judge them too harshly, because just imagine, for instance, like, okay, you believe what you believe, right? And I know you defend it fiercely. It's the same way I feel that they do. So, which is why I don't mind what they say when they say what they say. I just really want people to just listen to one another. Like, I don't have to. I clearly don't agree with many things Trump says, but when he talks, I don't sit there seething at the mouth like, Trump, oh, my ears bleed. And
like, you allow him to engage you.
I actually don't see that. I think he's an idiot, but I think it's more of his supporters. It's actually his supporters that bother me more than him, because they take what he says to the nth degree. They don't like whatever he says.
Trump's already at the far deep end, man. So if they could take it further, that's something. But I mean, yeah, you're not wrong about that. But I think both sides do it, and I think until people start owning it, it's just never gonna end. Like, it's like a relationship. When you have that scorecard, right? Do you see how a relationship scorecard is like one of the most unhealthy things for a relationship? I think the left and the right kind of have that, and they've both done wrong, but neither side wants to give way. And realistically, that's never gonna come to a solution. I'm just being real. It's never gonna resolve itself, because the right lies. Okay, so someone gets shot or whatever, they bring up, oh, black on black crime. I think black on black crime is one of the biggest problems in the black community. But in context, in relation to whatever it is that's happening with this shooting, it has nothing to do with it. Now, then the left brings something up, I guess, with the right, and they spin the context too, and I'm just like,
Gun control is a good example, because the left loves to spin that one.
Yeah.
Just so much fun.
It's true. And then like you said, the left loves to spin that one, and then on the same side of the coin, say the right like won't even consider budging just a little bit.
Exactly.
So it's like
neither side wants to budge.
So bizarre.
Well, okay, because and here's the thing, because I understand that, but and this is what I get from the left, where I talk to a lot of the people that I know on the left. They go, why can't you just go through this common sense gun control? And then you go, okay, well, what common sense gun control? Because maybe if you can talk intelligently about a subject, I'll listen to you and I'll value your input. And then
Josh,
they propose things.
Josh, are you libertarian? Are you libertarian?
I don't know exactly what that means necessarily.
I've heard it, and okay. Do you know who Wow, never mind. I forgot his name. Oh, Larry Holder. You know who he is? Have you listened to anything he says? He's a black Republican. Um, he said he
Maybe.
used to be liberal when he
Cop?
was no.
Okay, well, just explain it. Who is he and what is his?
Okay, so he had an interview, right? Larry Elder. And why don't I remember this YouTuber's name? Well, whatever. He was talking about the right and the left. He's discussing, how he grew up. When he grew up, he was a liberal. His mom was a liberal, and then when he got older, he became Republican. And there's something I noticed about people like him. I noticed that a lot of minorities, when they get into the academic world, I guess, and they become more well-read, they definitely shift Republican. And I think that's something that I should look into. I'm not going to say that with certainty that that's what they do, but I noticed the most intelligent ones usually end up Republican. Like Ben Carson being Republican isn't something that's totally, surprising. And that's something I'm not going to sit here and be like, well, the left is just stupid, because obviously, there's a lot of stupid people.
I can get behind. I always tell you, I mean, I don't know. You thought I was a Bernie supporter for a long time, and when I was like, no, I'm actually moderate, so I was actually more of a Hillary supporter. Everybody, you were shocked. I remember. You were like,
I am. You triggered me.
I feel like I could get behind a reasonable Republican, like Colin Powell. I felt he was a very reasonable Republican. He was Republican on some issues, but then
another black guy.
Affirmative action helped me. What?
Just them. I don't trust Republicans. I don't trust Democrats.
No, but I feel Colin Powell is a man of principle, because when Bush started doing things that he didn't agree with, he was like, I'm sorry, I cannot be your Secretary of Defense anymore. Like, I can't,
he was willing to give up someone like that. Yeah,
he was willing to give up his position of power because it was not morally aligned with what he believed in.
That is a big move to make.
Pretty bold
to make.
But that's more than Trump's cabinet can say. Yeah.
I need like
podcast,
a revolution.
I'm gonna put the video into the chat. I'll put the video into the chat if you guys want to look. It's pretty long, but when you have some time, he talks pretty much about his views on all this. He's talking about the left. Is trying to convince people like cops are out to shoot them, and it's just the same thing with the abortion numbers. I'm sorry, like people can talk about police shootings and disproportionate blah blah blah. It's still hyped up. And no one seems to realize we're still talking about the same 5 deaths for the past how many years now? Does that mean something? People are talking about, our men and women are safe. Sandra Bland died, right? Okay, and we're still talking about just her, and they're talking about the women. That's one woman.
So can we talk about Sandra Bland for 1 minute?
Sure.
Okay. This is going to be so like. On my feed, I get a ton of people like, today we commemorate the lives, like the heroic life of like Sandra Bland or whatever. You know those memes? It's like commemoration
right?
of her heroism, stuff like that. Am I missing something? Because I saw the entire video and it was like over an hour long. And I don't know what happened like in the jail cell, the part like to the point where she died. So that's like, I want to know what happened there. But it didn't seem like it was police brutality in that hour long. She was an asshole,
right? She was an asshole. But that's just my opinion on it.
But the notion was that that they try to hide and do things to her. Like some people are saying, like they abused her, like they knew how to cover it up, whatever. She went into the jail cell, but somehow she was fine when she went in. Somehow she magically died.
Like, so that's what I want to know. That's what I want to know. Like. But the events leading up to her getting arrested, I didn't think it was for no reason. Like
she should have got arrested, in my opinion.
I mean, yeah.
Started wilding out. She's really starting to wild out.
Like, I don't know what's the best way to handle it because people who follow the rules still get killed. So I don't know what the answer is.
The people who follow the rules that get killed are anomalies, and I'm not saying that it's justified. But if we put it in context, right? Like the therapist who got shot trying to save his patient, he was laying down, hands up. It's like, okay, that cop. And then they asked him, "Why'd you shoot me?" I don't know. You're a moron, And then the guy who had the permit to carry. Now you can't have a permit to carry unless your record's like, you know, tip top.
Impeccable.
You know? Exactly.
Philando Castillo, you're talking about, right?
Yeah. So the cop who's antsy is like, you're a moron. You can't critically think. You can't process information. It's just like, this guy has a license to carry. Okay, sir. You know, et cetera, et cetera. But you know, so those situations are definitely tragic. But I'm talking about.
You know what though?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
This is why like there's so much attention on these issues. The amount of police shootings, I don't believe, and I wouldn't believe that they're more than they were back then. But the reason why they get so much attention and why it's so blown up is because the public reaction to it, how people deal with it, how the police forces are dealing with it is a little disturbing. Like Philando Castillo, like the fact that the police forces themselves are always gung-ho to say like, oh, that cop did nothing wrong or it's okay. Like there's no like real true humanity about it.
Most of the time,
it seems like a mob. Do you know what I mean? Like it seems like the mafia, like the police. Yeah. And they're always like backing each other up. Like it doesn't seem like there's a lot of transparency.
That's just social psychology. You know, like you haze during sororities or fraternities, right? And the worst treatment you go through, the more you feel part of the in group. That's just what it does to us, and that's what happens with police officers. I'm not defending them. I'm just talking about social psychology and what happens to everyone that goes through that. Now, when we talk about the police shootings, right? So first of all, I just looked at the raw figures just for 2015. I guess I got to look up 16 and 15. They had like maybe 13,000 shootings. Most of them handguns, obviously. You know, I guess they want to ban assault rifles, but handguns putting in work. And out of that 13,000, 900 police shootings in a year. 900 out of 13,000, and 200 and change of those were black people. That's not an epidemic. Either way you slice it, and people don't interact with the cops for no reason. Everyone seems to. Now, I'm not going to use myself as an example because I think that's idiotic. I'm not going to be like, oh, well, black people just need to act like me. I don't get harassed by the cops. In fact, most times...
I've been harassed, though, so I don't know, man.
That's what I'm saying. I can't say, well, maybe that's idiotic.
So have I. I mean...
And that's what I'm saying.
I don't get harassed, but I still feel guilty. I don't know why.
Why?
I don't know. Like, I don't know.
I have a question for both of you because I'm genuinely interested. Like, when you were harassed by the cops, how did that go for you and how did it start? I guess, honestly.
Oh, honestly.
I could pick a situation.
You go
ahead first.
They thought I had been drinking because I was walking up to, there's an old windmill on Nantucket that I used to run. But I walked up there and there were two girls who were sitting outside of it. So I wanted to make sure they weren't messing around.
Wait, hold on. Sorry. You got to rewind a little bit.
You wanted to make sure they weren't messing around. What y'all doing up here? You know?
We can't just, first of all, we can't just breeze past the fact that you work at an old mill. Wait, what?
I paid attention.
That's like really cool and really unusual. But go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I just wanted to make sure they weren't screwing around and whatnot. They weren't. So I was chatting with them, and I was with two of my friends because we had just gotten out of a theater thing. I was a dork growing up. It's okay. And these summer cops rolled up and started questioning us because apparently someone had called in a party down the street and people were being loud and boisterous and whatnot. And then they were like, well, it's clear you've been drinking. And I was like, obviously I haven't. And the girls actually started to defend me and the rest. They were like, no, they just walked up. He was making sure we weren't fucking around here. And I was like, yeah, I run the place. But then they kept me there for like 20 minutes, like walked all around my car because it was parked in front.
Oh my gosh.
Search through it, all that fun stuff.
Wait, from the outside or the inside?
The outside.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they didn't go in because I would have had a cow.
I don't consent to searching.
Right. But no, I was just really straightforward with them. And because I knew at the end of the day there's nothing they could do that would get me in trouble.
And you know you didn't do anything. So
right.
How about you, sir? Keith?
Well, I have an interesting situation. The thing about this one situation that I was telling the story about to someone the other day, I don't know if I can really say it's truly all the cops, but the way they handled it was a little weird to me. So in New York, and there's a town called Scarsdale, a rich town.
It's very like Jewish, right? It's a Jewish, like.
Yeah, very Jewish, very white, very like well-to-do. One of the richest towns in the country. So
what you doing here, boy?
literally,
They go together.
yeah, yeah. So I'm from a town nearby, so I go over there. There's a park out there in the summertime. I have a lot of friends from Scarsdale, and I go there. My other friend, we're the two black kids that come, and we play ball with them, play basketball all the time. There's never any drama, never even arguments. It's always laughing, joking, playing ball, having fun. And there's this one guy that was there with his son one day, and like they were shooting around on one of the hoops that's on the full court. It's like half court hoops that he could use. So we tell like one of the other like white kids, you know, just to be smart, like yo, just go tell him go tell him to move so he can play.
What
So,
did you think you'd get a poorer reception because of the color of your skin?
absolutely.
At least you're honest. Let's pretend.
Yep. I won't lie to you. But yeah, so he goes up. He's like, yeah, I got it. He tells the guy, and then the guy like he doesn't want to. The guy doesn't want to leave. His son wants to leave. His son is exhausted. He looks like about to die, but he just will not let the kid leave because he just wants to be difficult. And I kept seeing him, other black friend or whatever, and like keep ice grilling us, and then looking away. And I'm like, oh, this is a situation. So then I see him walk off and leave, and then moments later, the police is showing up and walking into the park. Can I see IDs? I need to see everyone's ID. I need to see who lives here, who doesn't live here. And then all of the kids, like all of our friends, are automatically know what's happening. And then he comes over he looks at two white kids' IDs first because he's smart. He wants to make it not look so obvious.
Right.
And he comes straight for us.
There's no profiling here.
Clearly.
Yeah.
Nope.
And he looks at their IDs. He walks past like 8 other white kids and then walks straight to us and goes, I need to see you guys' IDs. So we put our IDs. We tell them like, listen, we're here as guests. These are our friends. Like we know them. This is so and so, naming them and everything. And he's like, yeah, you guys can't be here. You guys aren't allowed to play here. You're not from this town. I'm like, but I know like legally it's available to everyone who lives within the state. That's how parks work. And like if you're there, you're causing no issues. He's like, no, well, this is a village, and in this village, we have our own jurisdiction. And if the residents don't want you here, you can't be here. And if you're not welcomed here by these residents, and you're not welcomed here, you're not allowed to be here. And then all the guys are like, oh, but they're welcomed here. They're our friends. We live here. I live here. He's like, I don't care. You guys gotta get out of here. You don't belong here. You need to go. Let's go. Hurry up. Get your stuff. Get out of here. Snapping his fingers, everything. And I'm like, I'm looking at him, and I got mad, but like,
right? No, legit. I would be mad too. But I only got 2 points here, and it's not even on the officer because if I was the officer, I would have told the resident to go fuck off.
Exactly. Is this a cop issue or people in the community issue?
But also,
that's why I was like, I'm not sure.
Right, but I also know that officers are restrained, especially if he was like a village community officer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
he's restrained by what they say, so he could lose his job if he went. If the resident went, well, I don't want them here. Tell them to leave, and he went, no, they're not residents, but they're hanging out here. The guy would be,
Absolutely. I expected that he had to like get rid of us because, like I said, it's a really rich town, and when you're in that kind of environment, if a really rich person in a town like that tells you to do something, you don't do it, you can be screwed. But
did they curse at you? Did they curse at you? Did they like, they
were really aggressive. Like he was aggressive. He was touching his hips too much. Like I can read. Like I study psychology, so I'm always aware. If I gave him any kind of lip, then it was gonna be bad. He's gonna start going, "What'd you say, boy?" It was gonna get rough.
Why are you expecting the boyfriend out there?
Hey man, I've had that happen too. So.
I have to, from a female perspective, that sounds horrible. But like from an Asian perspective, I have to be honest. Like even if for some reason I'm always scared, I don't know why. Yeah, I don't get in trouble by the police. Like even when I do like bad things, and not that I do a ton of bad things.
Woman.
I think it's because okay, wait. So what I used to do was. That sounds so
Asian. Oh, sorry.
So like when you buy sometimes when you buy train tickets for like zones, like for example, if you lived in zone 5, you'd be paying more than if you lived in zone 1. So, but you like it doesn't really matter because you just show them like they only check the ticket once when you get on. So I used to all the time buy like tickets to Zone 1 when I lived in like Zone 4.
Yo.
Yeah. And one time when the conductor caught me, and I think a lot of women do this, where, you know, we just start kind of crying and saying like we don't know, and then they're like, okay, just don't do it again. I don't feel that women get treated like with as much, unless like you intentionally try to provoke them. But I think if you cry, I really don't think that.
If you act feminine, you get the special treatment. I guess if you're one of those, I guess, burly chicks that want to get dude like, yeah, they're probably gonna treat you like a man. That usually happens, you know, with that. But back to what he was saying with the cops. He said the cops are aggressive and whatnot. You know, the thing with police officers, I think it's like a multi-tiered issue. I don't. Okay, so my situation is a little strange. I've never really had like run-ins with the cops. Then again, I don't really do anything. So there's this one night, I ran into a coworker that left the job a year before. We met at the school Christmas play. I was like, yo, let me give you a ride, because she lives pretty much like 5 blocks up. So she wanted to talk about whatever, so we pulled over, right? And then one cop drives by, then another cop drives by, and they're all looking in the car, and it's a okay, so I drive a convertible, a BMW, right? So I don't know if that had anything to do with it, but and then a regular car drives by with 5 cops in it, and then the big old cop van with the lights on top. It comes and it drives right in front of my hood and flashes the light. And then it drives up to the side.
Oh my gosh.
And literally when it flashes, and we weren't doing anything. So literally my hands was in the air, pretty much like what I'm doing right now with you guys, because I'm very, you know, I like to demonstrate with my hands. And I look up. Now I have a clergy bath. You know a Shwai, Shirley?
Yeah.
I have one of his clergy passes in the front. So I'm assuming he saw it. So it has a badge number, official business, United Nations, you know, whatever. So he drives up. He's like, hey, man, that's a nice car, and you know, this area can get a little hot, so I just want you to know to be careful, right? So there's this dude sitting in the car with like 7 other cops, and I was like, oh, thank you. But guess what? The woman next to me, right? She's like, what do you guys want? And I'm like, yo, shut your mouth, man. So she's upset, and I don't know why, but the cop was like, what'd she say? I'm like, nothing. And I held my hand up to him, like, yo, you trying to get my ass beat to this soundtrack right now. It's not going to happen. So he went about his business. And this pretty much goes into my point. I feel like the way the media presents stuff, I think people act a particular way with police officers. And it kind of makes the situation a lot worse than it needs to be. I'm not saying this is all the time. I'm not saying cops shouldn't know better. But I'm trying to put it in a manner that cops deal with the lowest form of society all the time, and we're just regular citizens. We don't understand that perspective, so we act belligerent, thinking like, oh, I'm just gonna take on my stress too, and they're just not trying to have it that day. And
I have an interesting story to share. I have an interesting story to share where this isn't like a police officer necessarily abusing me, but this is a case of why these videos can come out and these things can happen and a person can be completely innocent. Because this really happened to me in Georgia. I used to live in Georgia for a while, going to school out there.
Oh God, Georgia.
All right, so yeah, Georgia's a weird place, but
David, so, did you hear that? If you're bashing your home state.
Hey man, it gets a little weird out there. I can't lie, man. But I had this female friend that I was hanging out with, right? And I was hanging out with her, like I was at her house hanging out. It's like 1 a.m. late, and she lived over in this area called Henry County, and then I lived over two counties over basically. But I basically was hanging out with her. I left her house and went to a gas station called Quick Trip. It's like the popular gas station. It's big, it's obvious, a lot of lights. I go in there, get something, whatever. I come out. I notice a cop car like parked across the street, but I'm driving an old school Cadillac, right? My parents had given me a Cadillac, like that old Cadillac car.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. So I'm a giant black guy. I'm 6'4", all right? I'm huge. So I'm a giant black guy getting into this old school Cadillac or whatever. And then I'm driving out. I notice, like, I see a cop car behind me driving. I'm thinking it's that same cop car, but I'm not sure. But I'm assuming that's what it was, like following me. And I'm close to the county limits. So I'm crossing over into the other county. And right when I'm about to change counties, he turns his lights on, flashes his lights to pull me over. And I'm in like the most like rural, no one's around road. So I'm scared to death. And I'm a legal gun owner. Like when I was in Georgia, I had a gun, and I kept it in my glove box. But the logical rule is to tell the cop that you have a gun, whatever. So he turns on his lights. I look for a street that at least has some kind of lights, and I turn down that street. I don't do nothing. I don't move. I put it in park, hold the wheel, because I'm like, yo, I don't want anything to happen. The cop turns on like these bright ass lights on his car, and he walks over, and he pulls his gun, walking over a gun out, creeping up like I'm a suspect of a murder or something, and then uses his gun to tap my window. So I'm holding onto my wheel. He taps my window with his gun, and I like, okay, and I slowly go and I press the button, wind the window down, and he's like, he realizes like there's no way, I guess, to get me for anything, and he goes, what were you doing, man? What was going on? And he sounds scared. He sounds like he's panicking. And I'm like, what do you mean, officer? I was just driving. You turned on your lights. I pulled over, and I was just waiting. I don't know what's happening. Why is your gun drawn on me? He was like, I was nervous. You were fidgeting around. You were moving around a lot. I didn't know what you were doing. No. It made me nervous. I was like, officer, I kept my hands on the wheel, officer.
Dude, I feel like police officers are they sound like they're on the verge of a panic attack like all the time. Because every situation where they like shoot someone, they're like freaking out. They're like, oh my, like with Philando Castile, after he was shot, the officer was freaking out. Do you remember? He was like, oh my God, what did he get his gun? And I thought he was reaching for his gun. Like,
that's what I'm trying to explain. Ridiculous. Like, I don't think we really understand what it is, like, you know, they go through. And I'm not saying that they're justified I'm just saying that it's scary, you know, that in situations there are cops that pull up to the glass normally and just pow pow and people are gone.
That's true, but you know? They're just you should be trained up to a certain level, and you should know where your mental state is.
How?
Like, you just have to be trained to read a situation, and if you can't read that kind of situation, all right, that makes sense. You can't read it, but then you should be mentally. If you're going to be a cop, they should assess you well enough to know, all right, he's mentally tough enough that he won't be panicky and he won't approach a random person with no reason for pulling them over.
Okay, you said we need CIA agents or FBI agents to do police work.
Exactly.
This sounds like above the pay grade of like an NYPD.
It matters. You're dealing with life and death, so
I mean,
you're at the end of the day, it doesn't matter.
No, I think you're absolutely right in terms of training or whatnot. But I say. In terms of what I can do and what I can't do and where I fit into relative terms of the police officer, I know that, listen, I know certain actions are going to be beneficial to me and certain actions are just going to exacerbate a already crappy situation for me. And I think the more people start looking at it that way, I think there'll be a whole lot less incidents. However, I don't think police officers are going to act any differently because they interact with pretty much when a good person like you gets in a situation like that, you're pretty much being punished for the scum. That's how that works out. That's how like right now where my house is situated, right? 2 blocks up, there's a project called the Pink Houses. I live in Brooklyn. Right now,
I thought you lived in Queens.
It's in Spring Creek. It's in the border of Brooklyn and Queens.
Okay.
Now, when I drive up, if I were to go outside right now, there's a whole bunch of bright lights they have posted on all 4 corners. It's posted everywhere. My stepdad, who works, in Manhattan, in the courthouse, he's like, it's called Project Bright Lights. That's what it's called. And it lowers crime tremendously. Obviously, there's no dark areas for people to hide in the cut, so that's just what it does. Now, you drive up there. Yeah. Now, the people that live across the street from the projects in houses, they have to have these lights just pretty much shining all kinds of hours at night. That's irritating, but this is what happens when people don't know how to behave,
Yeah.
When people like us get in these situations, we kind of empathize with the criminal element. I don't know, for some reason. I think Black people kind of do that more. It's like you have the good college kid doing this stuff, but he got a friend that gangbangs, but he still associates with him or whatever. And I don't know if he encourages him to do better or whatnot. Obviously, I'm not going to advocate snitching on your friend. That'll show him. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that we kind of let a lot of foolishness slide by, right? When it catches up to someone, then we want to defend. Like, take that kid who robbed the lady's house, she shot him, and then his sister's in the news talking about, oh, how could you shoot him? He was just trying to look for stuff for school. Like, what possesses you to do idiotic stuff like that? But that mentality,
I shoot him too. I don't understand what they're talking about.
I'm not interested
Go
in
to
calling
somebody's
her a
house.
fool. I'm talking about just that social context where someone could literally say something so idiotic and really believe it. I'm just interested in how she came up with that belief system. And that's what I'm saying. We kind of excuse a lot of the negative behavior. And then the cops punish the good people for it. And then we take it out on the police officers. We don't call out the people that do stuff that's bad. And it's just like, come on, you know. And now, are there crappy cops out there? Yes. And then sometimes a good person and a crappy cop goes together, and then you get a really shitty situation. And that happens. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, because there's just a recently retired police officer that got beat up by cops. You know, he's in a courtroom.
Oh yeah, the corrections officer. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
You know,
he's a corrections officer, and they jumped him.
Hey, I know, you know. Well, he's gonna get money, and I'm happy. You know, that's a done deal for him. Yeah, but I'm happy. I was like, yes, you know, I wish somebody beat my ass and I get some money, man. You know,
right?
I'm just saying, you know, I'm just saying, let's keep it in perspective. And this the whole hysteria of, oh man, the cops are out to get us, and we got to protect the women. Listen, women are, as a woman, even a black woman, you have a 4% chance of getting shot by the cops. They might rough you up, I guess. You have a high chance of that, but getting killed, it's like, really, I think a woman really has to try to get killed by a cop, man. Like, she could punch, scratch, bite, probably tackle you, and
I think so in most cases. Yeah,
you
if
know,
you just chill, if you're a lady, it's highly unlikely they're gonna kill you.
So I lived with a couple of cops before, and the one that was telling me about, like, this is actually a female cop, and she was a kind of a manly female cop. She would say how she got into a fight. She was white. She got into a fight with like a Puerto Rican woman, and she was on top of the woman. The woman, I think, like, either like scratched her on the face, or it was something like scratched on the face. Like, it wasn't nothing. I don't think it was anything major, but I think cops have such short fuses that she was like, and then I took my mace out and sprayed her in the eye for like 5 minutes, you know, and I just started like wailing on her, and like I was on top of her, and I just started beating her. Like, she's like, thank God there's no YouTube video of it, but I just completely lost it. I think that no matter how, like, you know, you think that this can't get any worse, it can get worse if you make it worse. You know, like I feel that a lot of cops are this close to having like a melt, like going postal.
Do you know why?
Because they don't put enough efforts into the mental assessments.
Not only that, but we ask police officers to do everything. And okay, so you have a certain situation, call the cops. We need, like, I think we need certain departments. I don't know how we're gonna do this fiscally, but I'm just saying it'll be better if you just didn't put so they got to deal with criminals. Then when I got hurt, and then the cops got to come out and talk to this other lady who hit me in the bumper, and they have to do everything. And I think they just dump too much work. Like, you have the EMS, right? What do? They just go, people get sick, or that's their job. You don't ask EMS to come out and do trivial shit, but that's what cops do. They're pretty much servants, literally, you know? It's like they do the criminal element. Yeah, they do the criminal element, and then every little thing, they just call 911, and the cops will come out and...
Yeah.
And they do have a short fuse because they deal with that crap all the time. And I don't know if they need to have therapy. Like, cops really need to go into like weekly sessions to get that shit off the chest.
Should be a requirement.
But it really should be, because like you said, I'm just having a bad week. I just have to deal with this person. People lying to you every day. People always trying to get one over on you. People swing. It's frustrating. And I was trying to put myself in their shoes. You know, I'm just like, dang. You know, and then you got people like the kid who's riding his bike on the sidewalk, and then she's like, let me see an ID. And he's like, yo, you really harassed me for riding? Yes, you stupid motherfucker. If everyone rode on the sidewalk, then where the hell would we walk? I mean, come on, son. It's not common, but they're so hyped with the whole cops out to get us. It's like, you mad because you ride on a sidewalk and she called you out for it? Like, really?
But that comes back to the media, though.
Yeah,
because of the rhetoric that's out there and the way it's displayed, it comes all full circles. Back to what you were saying.
They
really do put that into our minds.
Poor training on the cops.
Yeah.
Poor media coverage. Poor responsibility from cultures. In terms that when it's a whole lot of blame to go around, but everyone just wants to point the finger. So you have the cops saying, "Oh, well, it's too much criminal element, and 95% of black people commit blah blah blah."
And funny thing I want to mention to y'all too, though, I had a coworker who was a
okay,
police,
before we
sergeant.
finish, this is going to be the last thing because it's getting really late.
Oh crap! It's 12:20.
Yeah, it's 12:20.
Oh snap! I'll make it quick. But basically, I had a coworker. I worked with him for 2 years, like side by side, and he used to be a police sergeant. He used to run a narcotics unit in New York City, in the Bronx, and he worked in Harlem. So he's worked in the hood, and he told me many times, like he was like the clean cop. Like he always had a clean like record. They always knew him to never do nothing dirty. And he said like it was so like the police force was so filthy, like some of the things they would do. And he had guys on his unit and on his team that he would have to literally like on a regular basis for abusing citizens or like just beating up on people or trying to set people up. He was like, for example, there's this one guy, this Jamaican guy. Of course, gotta be Jamaican.
Those Jamaicans,
but it was a Jamaican guy. Like he used to like he was running like he was a weed dealer. But he was like he ran like the neighborhood. Yeah, and he said that his way of handling the guy was if he didn't catch him anything, coffee and like extra donuts, and like just bring it to the guy and come over to his corner and tell him like, listen, man, no business is gonna be going on today because I'm hanging out with you all day. That's how he shut him down when he had nothing on him. But his guys, when he wasn't around, his guys would just get frustrated. And they would wait till they caught him like in a back alley and they'd just jump him, beat him up, and consider trying to pin coke on him. And he's like, he literally caught them like in the act of doing that to somebody one time, like removed from the force. So I just consider like how many times like there are cops out there doing things like this where they're supposed to be full of justice, but instead they're literally functioning like a gang. So
I have to say, I worked as a caseworker for several years in a law firm. Who's basically was a form of social work. And as any social worker or cop or civil servant who has to deal with the public will tell you, like if you have to deal with people on a daily basis, you begin to hate people. Like, I mean, that's why I hated people and became antisocial. That like, like people just calling me all the time to their problems. And I think that you can only handle so much of that before you go crazy. Like like you just become desensitized to everything. So like as a cop, it's wrong to kind of profile people, but when you deal with whatever like every day, you get jaded. You get jaded. I think everyone just gets jaded. So I think there should be like a rotation, like maybe 2 years like on
hood duty and then send them to the suburbs next.
Okay, well, we didn't get to Dodd-Frank, but there's actually going to be more information about the Dodd-Frank repeal that they're going to roll out, and I really wanted to touch that. I wanted to touch that with my friend who is a Trump supporter on like here, but thank you everyone for joining. And
if you can get her on the weekends, or this weekend or whatever, like I wouldn't mind because it'd be really nice to have a Trump supporter here, man. It'd be really great.
They cite, instead of like kind of logically arguing things, like from normative facts, they start bringing up like facts from weird situations. Like, oh, well, like Kellyanne Conway was poisoned by the Democrat. And I was like, well, where are you getting this information? Like,
Alex Jones.
It's difficult to carry on conversation.
I used to be an Alex Jones fan, I mean, I still kind of am.
Entertaining.
But it's just one day I was watching him. I'm like, yo, this nigga's crazy.
Yeah. Exactly.
I was like, wow. I wish I did not see this episode, but I cannot unsee. I was like, listen, man, I'm gonna pray for you. I don't even pray.
Yeah.
But
telling you, eggs are a little scrambled, just a little bit.
All right. I will see you all guys next week.
All right, later.
All right, vote Kanye 2020.
All right. Vote Kanye.
No, Bernie.
No, if he's still alive.
Wow, you guys are